We solved Just a Game. It still sounds unreal to me, and how we got here is a story that you just have to hear. And in this case, I'm not using the royal we, because I'm one of the people credited with the solve. So, how did we solve it? I hope you'll enjoy this as much as I did. It's time for the solve video for Just a Game.
And now I know it's just a game. I don't need the rules to play. Maybe it's happy, maybe it's sad, but you can choose the way to play.
Let's rewind. In my original video about Just a Game, link to that in the description below, I mentioned that some of us were trying to track down the OP of Just a Game, Gabor. And long story short, we did. And we found out he had recently passed away. After we all took a moment to process that, we all united, feeling like the best way we could honor Gabor was by solving this one final mystery for him. And so we went back to trying to solve this because the last thing we wanted to do was bother his family. Except we did. Even though it may not have been the best idea. See here when someone decided to message Gabor's son. Somehow in this case, it worked. Someone else reached out to Gabor's daughter, and at first the reply seemed, well, dubious at best. But then user Nell confirmed it was her, and she had agreed to help. It wasn't long after that when we learned that due to a variety of circumstances, she'd not be able to help until June. This was at the beginning of May, mind you, so we had some waiting to do. We did learn that Gabor was a massive music lover and collector and had over 37,000 songs on his hard drive. And during this downtime, of course, many of us kept looking. Heck, Bodrick, who solved Everyone Knows That, even had a separate server where numerous people were making their way through a master list of every candidate for Just a Game, including records from every musician's rights database. I even investigated my own lead, a band called Limited Edition, and yes, the irony of that name and this band basically not existing online was not lost on me. And then all of a sudden I got a notification that a copy was available on eBay, so I swooped it up, and a little bit later I had the CD in hand and uploaded it to my channel. Of course, it didn't have Just a Game, but it was the closest vocal match we'd found, and several of us went looking for a second CD they released that was even more rare than the one I somehow bought. But a week or so later, user votistat core heard back from the one person on Discogs that seemed to own that second album and said it wasn't on that album either. And if you appreciate my efforts at music preservation and these sorts of videos in general, the best way to show your appreciation is by subscribing to my channel and liking this video. It really does make a huge difference, and I seriously appreciate it. Thank you so much. Moving on, we entered somewhat of a holding pattern. What we didn't know was that sitting on that master list was, in fact, an entry from Gemma, the German musicians' rights organization, put there by fellow YouTuber Jodry2x, an entry for a song called Just a Game. As it sat there, we continued until the end of June. I was ready to say we wouldn't get Gabor's daughter to send us anything until July, and others plain and simply thought it wouldn't happen. And then, it did. It blew us all away. Even server staff like Q, as well as Sveta, who pinged a good portion of the server to let us know the whole song had been found. We learned that Gabor had misattributed Just a Game to Gerd, an artist we had previously ruled out. And as we listened to the full song and looked at the full lyrics, user Cubing Crusader found a listing in Gemma, that listing I mentioned earlier, for a song called Just a Game, with alternate titles that matched the lyrics we now had word for word. And this song was attributed to someone named Christof Bachmeier. Funado found an artist with the same name, and it seemed like he was a decent fit. But all we could find was instrumentals by him. Then, in going through an archived version of a website for a production studio that Christof owned, I found that he had been a member of an AOR band called Zuckerband. And that album was on AOR Melodic RockRarities channel, who was the person who had previously said to me that Just a Game sounded very familiar to him. The channel was then moved to verification. It was now clear that Christof Bachmeier was our guy. And then we got confirmation from user Kutsu, who had reached out to Christof Bachmeier, and while we were a bit shaky about it at first, it was quickly confirmed And he said that he was very surprised and would tell us all more a little bit later. And then he did, explaining that Just a Game had been recorded in 1988 under the band name Change to Win for a charity concert for children in Africa, and included vocalists Christof, Mario Lenner, Regina Simon, and Carly Mayer. Only 500 copies were made, and only about 200 or 300 were sold. Christof seemed shocked that Gabor would have a copy of it, and wondered if the song had at one point played on radio. And after a few of us, Cubing Crusader, who found the gem listing for Just a Game, me, who found the right Christof, and Kutsu, who first contacted Christof, all got credit for the solve, we also decided to credit Gabor's daughter, Dorka, even though reaching out to Gabor's family wasn't a great idea and isn't something any of us should encourage. It worked in this case, and Dorka providing us the full Just a Game really drove this solve. And I'm just gonna say, it's weird being part of such a massive solve. And it's an honor. I hope Gabor is resting in peace, and I'm so happy we could solve this for him and his family. Until next time, I'm PersonOfDistraction, and I'm now listening to.
And now I know it's just a game, and I don't need the rules to play. Maybe it's happy, maybe it's sad, but you can. And now I know it's just a game, and I don't need the rules to play. Maybe it's happy, maybe it's sad, but you can choose the way to play. And now I know, oh, now I know it's just a game. The rules to play. Maybe it's happy, maybe it's sad, but you can choose the way to play. And now I know it's just a game, and I don't need